I see you carrying a heavy burden. You walk through your days with a stoop in your shoulders, your eyes fixed on the ground, dragging something behind you. It is a weight that tires you, that stills your breath, that dims the light in your eyes. And yet, if I were to ask you to drop it, you would look at me with terror. You would clutch it tighter. What is this burden? It is the corpse of who you were yesterday. You're under the impression, a very modern, very dangerous impression, that you are a solid thing, a statue carved in stone. You believe that because you said something 10 years ago, or chose a career 20 years ago, or made a promise in the ignorance of your youth, you're bound to it forever. You believe that consistency is the highest virtue, and that to change is to betray yourself. But I tell you this, consistency is the refuge of the unimaginative. It is the anxiety of the ego trying to freeze the flowing river of the psyche into a block of ice so that it can feel safe. You're not a statue. You are a process. Consider the snake. When its skin becomes too tight, when it has grown too large for the confines of its old existence, it does not try to shrink. It does not apologize for its growth. It finds a rough stone and it rubs against it painfully, slowly until the old skin splits. And then it leaves it behind. It slithers away, glistening and new. Imagine if the snake tried to carry its old skins with it. Imagine if it tried to wear them, layer upon layer, simply because it had worn them before. It would suffocate. It would become immobile. It would die. And yet this is exactly what you do. You cling to the I of yesterday. I'm a banker, you say. I'm a shy person. I'm the one who always pleases others. I'm the victim of this trauma. You wear these labels like a coat of armor, but the armor has rusted, and the person inside has outgrown it. You're suffocating inside your own history. Why do we do this? Why is it so terrifying to simply let go of the person we used to be? It is because we are afraid of the chaos. The persona, the mask we wear for the world, is a useful tool. It allows us to navigate society. It tells our neighbors what to expect from us. It tells our families that we are reliable. It gives us a sense of order. If I'm the same man today as I was yesterday, then I know who I am. I am safe. But the soul does not care about your safety. The soul cares about your wholeness. And wholeness is a dynamic thing. It is a living fire. When you wake up in the morning, the world is not the same as it was when you went to sleep. The sun has shifted. The cells in your body have died and been reborn. The constellation of your thoughts has rearranged itself. Your dreams have spoken to you in the night, shifting the sediments of your unconscious. You are quite literally a new being. To try to force this new being into the old mold is an act of violence against yourself. I've seen so many patients come to me in the second half of their lives, suffering from what they call depression or anxiety or a midlife crisis. They feel empty. They feel that life has lost its flavor, and almost always, the root of their suffering is the same. They are trying to live the second half of life with the program of the first half. They are trying to be the good son, or the successful businessman, or the perfect mother, long after those roles have served their purpose. They are acting out a script that was written for a character who no longer exists. And so, the psyche rebels. It goes on strike. It withdraws its energy. You feel tired because it takes an immense amount of energy to maintain a lie. And pretending to be who you were yesterday, when today you're someone else, is a lie. It is a lie that makes you sick. But let us go deeper. This obligation you feel, where does it come from? Who told you that you must remain the same? It is the voice of the collective. Society loves the predictable. Society wants you to be a cog in the machine, and cogs must not change shape. If the cog changes shape, the machine rattles. And so from the time you're a child, you're taught that reliability is love. Be a good boy. Don't surprise us. Stay in your lane. You internalize this. You build an ego that's desperate to please the collective. You construct a fortress of identity. But my friends, the fortress is a prison. There is a terrifying freedom in realizing that you owe nothing to the past. You owe nothing to the person you were. That person is gone. They are a memory. They are a ghost. You can honor them. You can learn from them. You can forgive them, but you do not have to be them. If yesterday you were angry, today you can be peace. If yesterday you were weak, today you can be strong. If yesterday you loved someone, today you may find that the love has changed, or died, or transformed into something else. To admit this requires courage. It requires the courage to be seen as unreliable by the world in order to be faithful to your own soul. This is the path of individuation. It is the path of peeling away the layers of the onion. It is not about becoming something new so much as it is about unbecoming everything that is not you. And often, the thing that is not you is the very identity you have spent decades building. I remember a man who came to see me, a very distinguished professor. He was brilliant, respected, a pillar of his community. But he was miserable. He told me, Dr. Jung, I feel like a fraud. Every day I go to the university and I say the things a professor should say, and I wear the clothes a professor should wear, but inside, I just want to walk into the forest and never come back. I told him, then the professor must die so that the man can live. He was horrified, but I have worked 40 years to become this professor. Yes, I said, and it was a beautiful achievement. But now it is a cage. You have outgrown it. The spirit that drove you to become a professor has moved on. It is now calling you to the forest. If you stay in the lecture hall, you will wither. If you follow the call, you will be reborn. He was afraid. Of course he was afraid. We are all afraid to leave the known for the unknown. We would rather stay in a familiar hell than step into an unfamiliar heaven. But this is the law of life. That which does not change, dies. Look at nature. Does the oak tree say, I think I shall remain a sapling, because that is what everyone knows me as? Does the tide say, I will not go out today, because yesterday I came in? Change is the only reality. Flux is the only truth. And yet, you treat your personality as if it were a monument. You polish it, you defend it. You say, this is who I am. Be careful when you say, I am. It is the most powerful spell you can cast. When you say, I am anxious, you bind yourself to anxiety. When you say, I'm a failure, you invite failure to sit at your table. But what if you said, yesterday I was anxious? Today, I am open to what comes. Do you feel the difference? The chains loosen, the heavy coat falls from your shoulders. You're under no obligation to the history of your own neuroses. You're under no obligation to the trauma of your childhood. Yes, those things happened. They shape the raw material of your psyche. But they do not define the shape you take today. The alchemists knew this. They spoke of the transmutation of base metals into gold. Lead is heavy, dull grey. It is like the weight of our past. But through the fire, through the process of transformation, the lead becomes gold. It changes its nature. You're the alchemist of your own life. But you cannot turn the lead into gold if you refuse to put it in the fire. You cannot change if you refuse to let go of the form you currently hold. And here we encounter the great resistance. We resist the fire because we have invested so much in the lead. Think of the energy you have poured into constructing your current personality. You have spent decades building the walls, painting the ceiling, arranging the furniture of your identity. You have defended this house against criticism. You have repaired it when it was damaged. You have become proud of it. This is my house, you say. This is who I am. But you have mistaken the house for the inhabitant. The house is merely a structure. It was built to shelter you during a specific season of your life. Perhaps you built a fortress because you were under attack in your childhood. It was a good fortress. It kept you safe. But now the war is over. The fields are green. And yet you're still sitting in the dark behind stone walls, peering through a slit in the masonry, holding a weapon, waiting for an enemy that has long since gone home. To leave the fortress is not to deny its value. It's saved your life. You can bow to it. You can thank it. But you must not die in it. The obligation you feel to your past self is a form of misplaced loyalty. You feel that if you change, you're admitting that you were wrong before. If you leave the religion of your father, or the career of your youth, or the marriage that has become a dead thing, you feel the stinging accusation of being a traitor. And the world will echo this accusation. When you begin to change, when you begin to drop the mask, the people around you will become uncomfortable. They will say, "You've changed." They will say it with a tone of disappointment, or even anger. You're not the person you. Do not apologize. Look them in the eye and say, "No, I am not," and thank God for that. You see, when you play a role, you enter into an unconscious contract with others. You agree to be the dependent one so they can be the strong one. You agree to be the sinner so they can be the saint. It is a dance of shadows. And when you stop dancing, when you stand still and decide to walk your own path, they stumble. They lose their balance. Their anger is not about you. It is about their own fear. Your transformation threatens their stagnation. By refusing to stay in your box, you're holding up a mirror to them, showing them that they are still trapped in theirs. This is why the path of individuation is often a lonely one. It requires the strength to disappoint others in order to be true to the self. But let us look deeper into this yesterday. What is yesterday? It is a memory. It is a ghost image in the neurons of the brain. It has no substance in reality. The only thing that exists is this moment, this breath, this heartbeat. When you cling to who you were, you're clinging to a corpse. And as I've said before, carrying a corpse is exhausting work. Consider the guilt you carry. So many of you are chained to the past by the weight of your mistakes. You look back at who you were 5 years ago, the foolish things you said, the people you hurt, the opportunities you squandered, and you freeze. You punish yourself. You say, "I'm a bad person because I did that." You're cementing your identity to a moment of unconsciousness. But listen to me closely. The person who made those mistakes is not you. That person was a different configuration of experience, knowledge, and consciousness. They were acting out of the wounds they had at the time. They were doing the best they could with the limited light they had. To judge your past self with the wisdom of your present self is a terrible injustice. It is like judging a child for stumbling while learning to walk. You must learn to look at your past self with compassion, not judgment. You must be able to say, "Yes, that happened. That was a stage of my development. It was the roots in the mud that allowed me to grow toward the light." If you do not forgive yourself for being who you were, you can never become who you're meant to be. Guilt is an anchor. It keeps the ship in the harbor. And ships are not built for harbors. They are built for the open sea. Now understand that this letting go is not a reckless abandonment of responsibility. I'm not telling you to abandon your children or break your promises simply because you feel like it. That is childishness, not individuation. True change is not a whim, it is a deepening. When I say you're under no obligation to be who you were, I mean you're under no obligation to the patterns of the past. If yesterday you were a person who responded to conflict with aggression, today you can choose to respond with understanding. If yesterday you were a person who sought validation from every stranger, today you can find your worth in your own soul. If yesterday you were a person who was afraid of your own shadow, today you can turn and face it. This is the glorious plasticity of the human spirit. We are not machines. We are not programmed once and for all. We are living poetry. We can rewrite the stanza. We can change the rhyme scheme. We can burn the whole page and start again. But you must be willing to endure the space between the notes. This is what terrifies us most. The liminal space. The void. When you let go of the old identity, there is often a period where you have not yet found the new one. You're in the hallway between two doors. You're no longer the banker, but you are not yet the artist. You're no longer the dutiful wife, but you are not yet the independent woman. You feel naked. You feel invisible. You ask, who am I? And the silence answers back. Do not run from this silence. This silence is the womb of the soul. In alchemy, this stage is called the nigredo, the blackening. It is the decomposition of the old material. It feels like depression. It feels like loss. But it is the fertile soil from which the new life springs. If you rush to fill this silence with a new distraction, a new label, a new busyness, you abort the process. You just put on a new mask over the old face. You must wait. You must listen. You must allow the unconscious to bubble up and show you the way. Nature does not hurry. The caterpillar dissolves completely into a soup of cells within the cocoon before it reassembles into the butterfly. Imagine the panic of the caterpillar if it tried to hold on to its legs, its jaws, its shape. I must remain a caterpillar, it screams. But the biological imperative says, no, you must become liquid. You must be willing to become liquid. You must be willing to let your rigid opinions dissolve. You must be willing to let your certainty evaporate. We love our certainties. We love to say, I am a Republican, I am a socialist, I am a stoic, I am a vegan. We use these labels to stop thinking. We use them to stop feeling. They are shortcuts. But life is not a shortcut. Life is a labyrinth. When you drop the obligation to be consistent, you gain the capacity to be present. When you are no longer defending a fortress, you can walk out into the field and meet the world as it is. You can see the person in front of you, not as a character in your odd script, but as a mystery to be encountered. You become dangerous in the best sense of the word. You become unpredictable. Not because you're chaotic, but because you are responsive. You are responding to the truth of the moment, not the dogma of the past. Think of the man who has decided he is tough. He cannot cry. He cannot show tenderness. He's bound by his contract with yesterday. When tragedy strikes, when his heart breaks, he stands like a stone. He thinks he's being strong, but he is being brittle, and eventually he cracks. Now think of the man who has no obligation to be tough. When tragedy comes, he weeps. He wails. He falls to his knees. He is fluid. He rides the wave of grief. And because he rides it, he survives it. He washes up on the shore, cleansed, alive, while the stone man has sunk to the bottom. Flexibility is life. Rigidity is death. So, ask yourself today, what part of me is dead, but I'm still carrying it? Is it a grudge? A dream that was never yours to begin with? A definition of success that was handed to you by your father? Drop it. Drop it. Let it fall from your hands. And listen to the sound it makes when it hits the ground. It does not sound like a crash. It sounds like a sigh. It is the sigh of relief from a soul that has been carrying a burden it was never meant to bear for eternity. But now look at your hands. They are empty. And this emptiness is what you fear most of all. We are a species that abhors a vacuum. We feel that if we are not clutching our past, we are holding nothing. We feel that if we are not the reliable character we created yesterday, we are nobody. But I tell you, emptiness is the prerequisite for reception. You cannot fill a cup that is already full of stale tea. You cannot invite the divine, the numinous, into a house that is cluttered with the furniture of your old memories and your old resentments. You must make space, and this making of space is a sacrificial act. In the ancient myths, which are really the maps of the human psyche, the hero often has to leave his homeland. He has to leave the grave of his father. He has to venture into the wilderness where he has no name and no status. Why? Because the homeland is the old self. It is the place of comfort, but also the place of stagnation. To leave the homeland is to accept that you might be misunderstood. It is to accept that you might be lonely for a time. You see, the obligation you feel to your past self is often an obligation to a script that was handed to you by others. When you were young, your parents, your teachers, your culture, they handed you a costume. They said, here, put this on. You're the smart one, or you're the helpful one, or you're the rebel. And you, being small and needing love, put on the costume. You buttoned it up tight. You learned your lines. You played the part beautifully. And the audience applauded. Good boy, they said. Good girl. But now the play is over. The theatre is dark. And yet, you're still standing on the stage, wearing the costume, whispering the lines into the silence. Take it off. The play was necessary for a time. It helped you survive. But the costume is now a straitjacket. When you realize you're under no obligation to be that character, you may feel a sudden rush of vertigo. If I'm not the smart one, who am I? If I'm not the helpful one, will anyone love me? This is the terror of freedom. But consider this. The smart one was a fragment. The helpful one was a slice. You are the whole pie. You contain the capacity to be smart, yes, but also to be foolish. You contain the capacity to be helpful, yes, but also to be selfish. By clinging to the definition of yesterday, you're denying half of your humanity. I often speak of the shadow. The shadow is everything you threw into the basement yesterday because it didn't fit the costume. If your costume was the nice person, you threw your anger into the basement. If your costume was the strong man, you threw your tenderness into the basement. To stop being who you were yesterday means to go down into the basement and retrieve what you threw away. It means saying, yesterday, I was only allowed to be nice. Today, I'm allowed to be angry when my boundaries are crossed. It means saying, yesterday, I had to be strong. Today, I am allowed to be weak and ask for help. Do you see? You're not just changing, you're expanding. You're reclaiming the lost territories of your own soul. People worry that if they change, they're being contradictory. They say, but Dr. Jung, I said I hated poetry 10 years ago, and now I want to write it. Is that not hypocrisy? I say, do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. The soul is a paradox. It is not a logical equation. It is a biological phenomenon. Does the weather contradict itself when it rains today after being sunny yesterday? No. It is simply the weather. It is responding to the atmospheric conditions of the moment. You must grant yourself the permission to be like the weather. The obligation to consistency is a cage made of words. You said words in the past. You made vows. You declared opinions. And you treat these words as if they were binding legal contracts with the universe. But the universe does not listen to your words. It listens to your heart. And if your heart has moved, but your words remain stuck, you're living in a state of neurosis. You're split. The unlived life is a disease. When you force yourself to be who you were yesterday, you're killing the person you are today. And this unlived life does not just sit quietly. It turns into poison. It turns into bitterness. It turns into physical illness. How many of you are dragging a dead marriage behind you like a corpse, simply because you promised forever 20 years ago to a person who no longer exists, while you yourself are no longer the person who made the promise? This is a hard truth. I do not speak of it lightly. But sometimes, to be true to the greater law of the soul, you must break the lesser laws of society. There is a loyalty deeper than loyalty to the past, and that is loyalty to the self. The self is the seed within you that knows what it is meant to become. The acorn knows it is meant to be an oak. It does not try to be a rosebush. It does not try to remain an acorn. If the acorn said, I have an obligation to remain a smooth, hard little nut because that is what I have always been, it will rot in the ground. It must break open. It must destroy its old form to release its new life. You're afraid that if you change, you will lose everything. And you are right. You will lose something. You will lose your illusions. You will lose the approval of people who only liked your mask. You will lose the comfort of predictability. But look at what you will gain. You will gain vitality. Have you ever met a person who is truly alive? They are rare. Most people are sleepwalking, repeating the loops of their past conditioning. But a person who is alive, who is living from the center of their being today, not from the memory of yesterday, they vibrate. There's a light in them. They are dangerous, yes, but they are magnetic. They are magnetic because they are real. When you release the obligation to be who you were, you stop acting. You stop performing. You simply are. And when you simply are, you find that you have much more energy. Think of how much energy it takes to suppress a beach ball underwater. That is what you are doing when you suppress your changing nature. You are pushing down the new growth because it doesn't match the old picture. Release your hands. Let the ball shoot up. Let the new growth happen. You might say, but I've invested so much time. I've spent 10 years studying to be a doctor. I've spent 15 years building this business. If I change now, it was all a waste. This is the great fallacy of the ego. The ego thinks in terms of investment and return. The soul thinks in terms of seasons. Nothing was wasted. The 10 years you spent as a lawyer were not a waste, even if today you become a gardener. The discipline you learnt, the suffering you endured, the understanding of human nature you gained, it is all compost. It has gone into the soil of your being. It will feed the flowers of your new life. A tree does not say, I wasted my time being a sapling. The sapling is inside the tree. The past is inside the present. You do not have to carry it as a burden. You have already absorbed it as wisdom. So, do not look back with regret, and do not look back with obligation. Lot's wife looked back, and she turned into a pillar of salt. This is a profound psychological image. When you look back, when you fixate on the past, when you try to freeze the moment you become calcified, you become salt. You lose your fluidity. To be alive is to be a river, not a stone. And the river flows. It does not ask permission to change its course when it meets a mountain. It flows around it. It does not ask permission to widen when it reaches the plains. It widens. It follows the gravity of the truth. What's the gravity of your truth today? Ask yourself, what do I want now? Not what did I want 5 years ago? What does my soul crave today? The answer might surprise you. It might frighten you. It might be something very small, like, I want to sit in silence. Or it might be something very big, like, I want to leave this life and start over. Whatever it is, honor it. You do not have to act on it immediately. You do not have to burn your house down tomorrow. But you must at least acknowledge it. You must say, I see you. This is who I am today. By doing this, you break the spell of yesterday. You declare your independence from the tyranny of your own history. And this, my friends, is the beginning of real love. Because you cannot truly love another person if you are not real yourself. If you are a fake person, a collection of old habits and masks, then your love is also a mask. But if you are a real person, changing and growing, then your love is a living thing. And you allow others the grace to change as well. This is the greatest gift you can give to your partner, your children, your friends. The permission to change. To say to them, you're under no obligation to be who you were yesterday either. I'm interested in who you are today. Imagine the relief of hearing that. Imagine the freedom. So, we arrive at the final gate. We have spoken of shedding the skin. We have spoken of leaving the fortress. We have spoken of the terror of the void. Now we must speak of what lies on the other side. When you finally put down the heavy load of your past identity, when you stop apologizing for changing, something miraculous happens. You begin to experience the golden shadow. You see, the shadow is not just the repository of your sins and your fears. That is only the first layer. Deeper down, the shadow holds your unlived gold. It holds the genius you are too afraid to claim. It holds the creativity you were told was impractical. It holds the power you were told was arrogant. By clinging to the small, safe definition of who you were yesterday, you have not only locked away your demons, you have locked away your angels. You have refused your own greatness because it did not fit the script. Perhaps yesterday you were the humble servant, a noble role, yes. But in playing it so strictly, you repressed your capacity for leadership. You repressed your king or your queen energy. You kept your crown in the basement because you were afraid it would make you look proud. But today, the world does not need your false humility. It needs your true power. To become who you are today, you must be willing to be bigger than you were yesterday. You must be willing to take up more space. You must be willing to shine brighter, even if it hurts the eyes of those who prefer the dark. This is the ultimate obligation, not to the past, but to the potential. The acorn has an obligation to the oak. The caterpillar has an obligation to the butterfly. You have an obligation to the self, that divine center within you that is constantly seeking to manifest itself in the world. And the self is never static. It is a wheel. It is a mandala that spins. If you try to stop the wheel, you create friction. You create suffering. But if you move with the wheel, you become the center. In the center of the wheel, there is a stillness. But it is not the stillness of death. It is the stillness of perfect motion. It is the stillness of the dancer who is so perfectly one with the dance that there is no effort, only flow. This is the state of individuation. It is not that you become a different person every day in a chaotic, schizophrenic way. No. It is that you become more transparent to the light that is trying to shine through you. The layers of yesterday, the prejudices, the defenses, the rigid opinions, they are like soot on the lantern glass. When you wipe them away, the light is the same light. But now it can be seen. Now it can illuminate the road for others. So do not fear that by changing, you're losing yourself. You're only losing the soot. I want you to imagine a traveler walking down a long road. It carries a massive backpack. It is filled with rocks. Each rock has a name. One rock is my divorce. One rock is my failure in business. One rock is my father's expectations. One rock is the promise I made at 20. He is bent double, he's sweating. He can hardly see the sky because his eyes are fixed on the dust of the road. He meets the stranger who is really his own soul, and the stranger says, "Why do you carry those rocks?" The traveler says, "I must. They are mine. I collected them yesterday and the day before and the year before that. They prove who I am. Without these rocks, I would just be a man walking." The stranger smiles and says, "Exactly. Just be a man walking." My friends, put down the pack. Leave it by the side of the road. You do not need to carry the memory of your pain to prove that you survived it. The survival is in your bones, not in your burden. You do not need to carry the trophy of your past success to prove you're worthy. Your worth is in your existence, not in your resume. Step away from the pile of rocks. Stand up straight. Look at the horizon. Feel the lightness. That lightness is not irresponsibility. It is readiness. You are now ready for what happens now. You are light enough to climb the mountain that is in front of you, instead of simply enduring the weight of the mountain you already crossed. And know this. The people who truly love you will not love the rocks. They will love the man, the woman who is standing free. They will be inspired by your liberation. Your courage to change gives them permission to change. Your refusal to be bound by yesterday breaks the chains for your children and your children's children. We heal the collective unconscious not by preaching to the world, but by healing our own split, by engaging in our own alchemy. So tomorrow morning when you wake up, do a small ritual. Look in the mirror. Look at the face that stares back at you. It is older than it was 10 years ago. It has lines. It has scars. It is a map of where you have been. Honor it. But then say to that face, "I release you." Say you're under no obligation to be the person who went to sleep last night. You're born anew with this sun. If you were afraid yesterday, you're free to be brave today. If you were cruel yesterday, you're free to be kind today. If you were lost yesterday, you are free to be found today. Take a deep breath. Inhale the present moment. It is the only thing that is real. The past is a dream. The future is a fantasy. This breath is the bridge. Walk out of your door not as a continuation of a story that is already written, but as the author of a page that is blank. The ink is in your hand. The pen is your will. Write something new. Write something true. And do not worry if it contradicts what you wrote in chapter 1. Chapter 1 was necessary to get you here, but you are not reading chapter 1 anymore. You're writing chapter 10 or chapter 50. Let the plot twist. Let the character evolve. Let the old themes resolve and new themes emerge. That is the art of living. And remember, the tree grows both up and down. As you reach for this new freedom, let your roots go deep into the reality of who you are now. Not the idea of you, but the reality. The messy, beautiful, changing reality. You're a child of the cosmos. You're a swirling galaxy of consciousness wrapped in skin. You're never finished. You're never done. Until the final breath, you are a becoming. So be it. Go in peace. Go in freedom. And leave yesterday where it belongs, in the sacred silence of memory, not in the noisy command center of your heart.